You're listening to Two Girls, One Crossword.
Everyone, big news listeners. Chelsea and I just decided that we're going to be recording in the mornings now. So get ready for a morning voice every week.
Every week. Yeah. Back to morning voice. I think Grace and I need to record in the morning. We've decided.
Yeah, because sometimes it's like, I mean, not that you guys care about this, but it's like, then it takes our Thursday evening and da-da-da. So whatever, we're recording in the morning now before work and
basically back to old times.
Yeah. I kind of like, I mean, I feel like, yes, sometimes we have morning voice, but I also feel like it feels more like a radio show that way. You know what I mean?
I also feel like I have more to say. I mean, I'm saying this now, but like, I feel like you and I in the mornings, like we have more energy because we haven't wasted it all at work.
True.
You know what I mean?
I've barely talked to anyone today, so.
So we're going to get all our energy out now, and then work, I'll be at, instead of giving like 120 like I always do, I'll be giving 100% at work.
That's us. Always giving 120% to everything we do, including this podcast, Two Girls, One Crossword. I'm Grace Topinka.
I'm Chelsea Rowan. This is your favorite weekly Podword Crosscast. Though speaking of weekly, unfortunately, next week is a major United States holiday. It is Thanksgiving, and regardless of whether you do or don't celebrate such a holiday, such a feast day, we will not be recording. Grace is traveling, and I'm not.
We just celebrate having time off from work. I don't want to get into the reason why I don't like Thanksgiving. Obviously, there's a lot of reasons, but aside from that, I personally, and people may come for me for this, I'm not that into Thanksgiving food. Like the type of food that
I agree.
Okay, thank you.
I agree.
Like, it's just whatever to me.
It's very Americana, which is fine. There are some Thanksgiving dishes like that standalone are good. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I'm like every other white person. I like a good cheesy casserole of some sort some point in my holiday season. But everything else, like all of the quote unquote veggie casseroles,
green beans,
I hate the no. Turkey is a subpar fowl, if I do say so myself. And like 99% of people do not know how to cook a turkey so that it remains juicy. So
don't get her
that's
started.
A problem.
Don't
get me started.
I like mashed potatoes. Like I like the potato dishes. Everything else is fine. I don't like cranberries sauce.
No. I mean, I like cranberry sauce if it's in a can, but that's a holdover from childhood. I feel like as an adult, I kind of suffer through it because I used to like it as a kid.
Yeah.
And those people that make like the ritzy cranberry sauce, like the fresh cranberry sauce with orange zest, and I'm like, relax, just shut up and give me the can.
Just crack open the can and pour it down my gullet. Back when I first started working and I didn't have very many vacation days, I used to take off like Monday through Wednesday of Thanksgiving because we get Thursday, Friday off, and then I would go on a trip or something. Like then I'd be able to take, a 7-8 day
Sunday
trip, only taking 3 days off of work. And that's America for you.
Yeah. That's Americana.
Yeah, for all of our listeners not in the U.S., you do realize most people in the U.S., it is customary to start a job with only 2 weeks vacation. 10 days vacation of the whole year, minus like the very few bank holidays that we have. And even still, people are holding on to that tight. They're like, we can't possibly have more bank holidays. Oh.
You couldn't possibly give you another day off. We couldn't possibly suffer a single more day without you here at this very office. And when we say 2 weeks, we mean 2 business weeks, 5 plus 5. We're not talking 7 plus 7. Mm-mm. We don't get the 14, okay? Are you kidding? No. Unlike our British counterparts that, I don't know, they're required to be in the office 2 weeks of the year. And
feels like it sometimes. Capitalism.
Wait, one last thing about vacation days. For those who are interested, you can search on TikTok. There are accounts, and these are amazing accounts, and I may or may not be taking advantage next year, but they essentially break down the year and like how to best spend your vacation days to maximize the amount of days you get off. And I found an account that like you could get like 50 days off next year, depending on how you strategically take your days off, depending on if your company does the certain bank holidays.
And also depending on like it depends, obviously. Well, not that we have to get into it, but it depends what kind of job you have, who's covering for you. Like, you can't always take the long, depending on what kind of department. Like, I would feel bad always taking the long weekends and adding on to it, because it's like, I have to let some other people take those out too. I have more vacation days now, so I'm not complaining anymore, but it's rough when you first start. And I did that all the time. I like, anytime there was any of my big trips back in the day, it was like always around Memorial Day, Labor Day, Thanksgiving.
Yeah, it'd have to be. But like, of course, those are the most expensive times to travel too.
Yeah. Well,
it is what it is. All right, that's it. What is it? I'm proud to be an American, where at least I only have 2 weeks of vacation.
Reminds me of 5th grade, 2001. That song is playing everywhere. You know. If you know, you know.
If you know, you know. And this is the type of content you're going to get from us in the mornings.
If you don't want me to talk about 9/11, then don't ask me to record in the morning.
You don't want to hear about 9/11?
Well, another sad dropping the ball news was, in addition to not recording next week, I also didn't do a poll this week. This week was weird for me. I was like confused at work too. I didn't miss something, but something that I normally do on Wednesdays, it was like 4:30. I was like, oh my God. I was like, it's Wednesday. I haven't done that yet. In my mind, it was truly Tuesday.
It has been one of those weeks. It truly has. Like, I was telling Grace, we're recording Friday morning. Thursday, yesterday, I was in calls from like 9:45 to 5:45. I mean, I work in PR, guys. There's not much to talk about. Social. There's not much to talk about, to be completely honest. But somehow, someone somewhere needs me.
It's because you're so fun to talk to. People just want to get a piece of you.
I think I just don't have any boundaries. But hey, that's fine. I'm working on it.
Yeah, that's fine. Let people walk all over you. It'll pay off in the end. I know it.
In the end, it'll work. It'll work out for me. Yeah.
But I might do a little poll, just an extra one.
A cheeky poll.
Thinking about it now, because Chelsea and I both showed up to the recording with a drink from Dunkin' Donuts. I have an iced drink. I always get a refresher because I don't really like coffee that much. But and Chelsea got a hot drink. So I'm gonna ask people like their morning drinks. You an iced drink?
So tune
or
in.
A hot drink. I guess some people change around depending on the season. But I also there was this movement of people being like, I still drink iced coffee in the winters if it was like a huge deal. I'm like, don't you drink? It's not that weird to drink a cold drink in the winter. Like, you drink your water hot. I feel like we've gone down this path before. But anyways.
We've gone over this before, but I agree.
I will ask because I want to know. Because for me, it's all about this.
The shake.
That was me shaking my ice. If you know, you know.
If you know, you know. Yeah, today I got a hot coffee, specifically because I think it's the first time it's been under 30 degrees in the morning. Mm-hmm. And Matt was like, do you want to go to Starbucks? And I usually get an iced coffee at Starbucks. There's a specific iced drink at Starbucks that I like. I also really like Dunkin', just plain original blend iced coffee. But I was like, I kind of want a hot Dunks today to celebrate the cold air. And that's where I am. That's where I am. But I did have iced coffee yesterday, and it was like 30 degrees. So, like, what?
Well, I walk to my Dunkin' Donuts and Starbucks. So I have to, I walk back in the winter holding a cold drink. I bring like a glove just to hold it.
Funny.
I'm about to crochet a carrying case for myself, but
you are so cute. Okay, amazing. So hold on a second. Are we going into our hits and shits?
Yes. Is that okay?
I think I have a corrections corner. That's why. Okay. Hold on just a minute. Oh, okay. So corrections corner. Sorry to anybody who watches us on YouTube. We've had some issues with like our video
just
recorder.
Say it. My internet.
Situation. Grace's internet has thwarted us. No, but we're trying to work on it, and hopefully we have the video up for this video. If not, apologies again.
Just imagine us.
Yeah, just imagine what we look like in your mind's eye. YouTube is something we like to give to our listeners. It just is like another little asset in our portfolio of podcast bits, but it is an extra. It is icing on top of the cake. And, everybody likes icing on their cake. I'm not saying that we're going to have cake with no icing. I'm just saying that it's like one extra step. I'm sorry that it's not there. We're trying to figure it out. And until then, you may or may not see us, but you can at least hear us. And yeah.
That was your correction?
That's my correction. It's not really a corrections corner, but we don't often have corrections corners anymore.
I actually believe we file that under apologies corner.
Excuse me. I'm sorry. I'll make sure that that's amended in the minutes.
General apologies. We do actually need one of those. Like, sorry that we're dumb.
Sorry, we're really dumb.
General apology at the top of each episode for pronunciations. Just general pronunciation apology.
Yeah. Speaking of being dumb,
yes,
let's move into hits and shits, and then I'm going to kick us off with some good news, but also it's related to the we're dumb sentiment. So we were talking about Mensa a couple episodes ago, Grace's topic, and I brought up a trivia league that I called Learned League. It is called Learned League, obviously. And we were joking about how, tons of crossword constructors are probably in there, or crossworld folks are probably in Learned League.
It's invite only.
It's invite only. Anyway, so a listener wrote to us. Thank you so much for writing to us, and gave us more insight about Learned League, and very kindly informed us that it is pronounced Learned League and not Learned League. Hashtag you're a star. And just to say, like, not to flex or anything, but we did get an invite to Learned League, and we're going to sign up for the next season. So that's it. That's it. And that's all. We're going to see how it goes.
I feel like they're inviting us just to make themselves look good. Okay, because we can't we're like doing regular people trivia, and we don't we have won those in the past. We usually like score okay, but with these crossword people, I can't compete with
these
that.
are smarty pants. Crossword people, Jeopardy people.
Yeah.
They're smart. Not to say that we're not smart. We just don't, I think you and I just don't dedicate the amount of time that a lot of these people do. Because like trivia is, in the same way that crossword is, it's a muscle that you need to what's the word? Flex, or just like grow, similar to like your vocal cords. Like, you practice makes perfect. You need to do it more. The more you do it, the better you get at it. Grace and I used to not be good at crosswords at all. I would say we're good now, but we're also casual solvers, like we don't take it like super seriously. Like, I need to perfect my time. I need to be better. I need to be faster. We do it for fun, for leisure, if you will. And we're the same way with trivia. So we're going to give it a shot. But don't have high hopes for us.
Do not. Set expectations extremely low. Unless it happens to be like a random, sometimes like depending on the category, it could be something like if it's a Twilight category, forget it.
You're done. You're done. Yeah. Or like, I don't know, something from about, I don't know, whatever. I can't even think of anything else that I know anything about. So that's it. It's like Twilight or bust.
Yeah. I feel like I know a good amount about horror movies, but then not really compared to like other people,
Yeah.
Anyway, okay.
Jack of all trades, master of none. I've always said that. Do you want to kick us off with the puzzles this week?
Sure. I did the Sunday Washington Post by Evan Bernholz, November 13th. Cod Collection was the name.
Card or cod? Okay.
So basically in the middle of the puzzle, there was like diagonally a bunch of circled letters, and at the like revealer for the puzzle was 127 across, metaphorical means of cheating at cards illustrated in this puzzle. And the answer was stacked deck. And so each of the like circled letters it's like Jack, Ace, 6, 7, but they kind of go up. They're stacked on top of each other. So that was fun. Once you figured that out, then it's like, I like ones like that. My easy brain. I'm like, I know all the cards in a deck. I could fill this out. But there were other clues that I liked from that puzzle, like 18 across, novel read on a screen, ebook.
Very good.
25, Hatcher of Spy Kids, Terry Hatcher. I just love when people pick like really random movies to reference.
I agree.
30 across, spend time in our town, say. Act, because our town is a play,
nice,
I believe. 40 down, Cage's co-star in Face Off, Travolta, the famous.
Very good.
67 down, Charmaine Carr's role in The Sound of Music, Liesel. We talk about, I almost did it as my subject. I'm like, I should do like a Where Are They Now of all the kids from Sound of Music, but we did do that in our Do Re Mi episode. So our Do Re Mi podcast, which is an entire podcast just dedicated to The Sound of Music.
We should do that again. We should pick another thing.
Yeah.
And do like a 5-parter. We did it went well with cats.
Yeah.
I feel like we could have done multiple episodes of cats.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Well, it's just
I know, but I'm trying to think
Grace
of like
and I are
what
always
other,
looking
it has to be something that has like multiple, because Cats and Sound of Music both have in common, like they're based on, there was like a book, a play, a movie.
We could do Les Mis.
Maybe.
But I'm not reading the book. So, it's something like Les Mis, but I'm not reading Victor Hugo's
I just can't talk
book.
about
I'm
the
sorry.
French that much anymore. But I am seeing Les Mis for the first time when they come to Chicago in February. So maybe
We just got our tickets too. I'm so excited.
We'll see if I get the I have this issue where I get like locked in on Broadway plays, and then I literally listen to the soundtrack over and over again. Right now, I've mentioned this before, I'm in a Dear Evan Hansen phase, but Alex makes fun of me because I always have to start from the beginning. She's like, you've listened to the first 3 songs so many times. I'm like, yeah, but first of all, the first 2 songs are some of the best in the whole play, in my opinion.
And that is her opinion.
Yeah. But anyway, so we'll see. Maybe I'll get locked into Les Mis. I've heard the Les Mis soundtrack so many times, but I never like.
Yeah, but you have once you see it.
Sometimes I need to see it first, and then I'm like, I must listen again.
Is believing.
That was it for Washington Post.
All right, I'll take us to the Friday, November 11th, New Yorker by Ross Trudeau. First, I will talk about the theme. 55 across was the revealer, quote, "Love will tear us apart" band, and a hint to each set of circled letters in this puzzle. The answer is Joy Division, and the reason I liked this stupid fucking theme so much is because I love Joy Division. I'm a Joy Division girly. If you couldn't tell by the haircut, then I don't know what to tell you. But this was fun because the concept of the theme was that the circled letters in the themed answer spelled some type of joy, but they're divided by other letters from the themed answer. For instance, 17 across, fictional home to the Misty Mountains and Fangorn Forest, and the answer is Middle Earth, but the circled letters spell mirth, so M-I, and that at the front, and R-T-H at the end, so joy, division. You get it? You with me here?
I'm following.
Let's see, 33 across, source of illumination for a writer, and the answer was desk light or D-light. For joy, that is divided. And then, let's see, 27 across, comedian who wrote the memoir, Life Will Be the Death of Me, and the answer is Chelsea Handler. And the answer, the joy is cheer. Very good. And there's one other, but I didn't put it in.
Just imagine it.
So, imagine. Also from that puzzle, I really liked 51 across, means of returning home after a hunting trip, perhaps. And the answer was cat door. Very cute. I've never seen cat door in a puzzle before, and also the clue is amazing.
Yeah.
I also liked one down, where to get bread in a bodega. ATM, of course.
Okay.
And then 22 down, this is my favorite of the week. Congratulations, Mr. Trudeau. Sound of burrata hitting the floor, say. And the answer is splat, which is a hilarious way to clue the word splat. And I love burrata as much as the next person. Well, I hope everybody likes burrata. So that's it.
Excellent.
Excellent.
Well, I do love burrata as well. And I have some clues that I loved from the November 17th New Yorker by Caitlin Reed.
Okay.
Well, this one is kind of like, this word, 4 across, baddie in Little Red Riding Hood and the 3 Little Pigs. And the answer is wolf. Why? What is that? That comes up all the time. I mean, I know it means like the villain or whatever, but it just is so weird to see it because baddie to me is like an Instagram model.
Well, that's why I put this clue in my hits, because I was like, why are we calling the big bad wolf a baddie? Yeah. Is he curvy? Is he,
Did
like
the Crossworld start the term baddie?
Oh, hot take.
Yeah.
I love that.
18 across, what's with the blank question to a friend in an unusual outfit? And the answer was get up. And I just like, if someone told me what's with the get up, it's like ruined. You know what I mean?
That's exactly the thought that I had. I was like, I cannot remember the last time, if ever, anybody has said what's with the get up, the outfit, or anything. But imagining that, crushed, devastated, KO.
There's like this movement on TikTok for white people to like stop appropriating AAVE and instead to use like white people terms. And so people make videos of like, one of them is like, instead of saying like BFFR, be like, be realistic. But I feel like what's with the get up is a good one too.
Is a good one. Yes, for sure.
As if. Talk to the hand. Anyway. And then this one reminded me of you, 42 down, gave a peak performance, yodeled, which you did an episode on.
Yes, it's actually episode 104, Nail the High Notes.
Oh, okay. Someone
Yeah.
had that on
That
deck
was in-
waiting.
That was in my hits as well, so yeah. Do you have anything else from that
No,
puzzle?
that was it.
All right, I have two more from this puzzle. First is 48 down, big cheeses in the kitchen. And the answer is chefs. I just like the idea of you calling a chef a big cheese.
cheese.
It's great. It's funny. And then this one, one down. Do you remember learning this term with me? Had a helping of humble pie. And the answer is eight crow.
Yes.
Throwback or shout out both of those things to a coworker of ours, a previous coworker of ours, Billy, who taught us what 8 crow meant. And you and I remember sitting at the lunch table being like, what in the goddamn hell are you even talking about? I wonder if Billy's husband still listens. If you do, hello, Billy taught us 8 crow. So
if you're still listening, tell Billy to text us 8 crow, and then we'll know.
I dare you. Yes. I'm going to take us to the Friday, November 14th, New York Times by Brooke Husick and Eric Agard. I love seeing Eric's puzzles. I love Brooke's puzzles. Anyway, one across the opener, launch party, ? The answer was NASA. Bravo. And then 17 across and 18 across are the same clue, and the clue is are awesome. And 17 across's answer is rule. And 18 across's answer is rock. So when you are awesome, you rule or you rock, which I thought was hilarious and bravo. This threw me. I had to read this truly a million times to understand. Well, first of all, I didn't fill it in because I'm smart. I filled it in the other way. But 38 across, noun phrase that's present perfect indicative, ? Wish list. So present perfect. So the perfect present. Indicative. So indicative of the perfect present.
Wow.
And I was like, oh my.
This one can't be in Learning League.
Yeah, exactly. And then I'm going to end with 25 across. Set of books that may have an invented language. And the answer is fantasy series, which I always find to be an incredible endeavor by the author to invent their own language. And then you see things like, I don't know, whatever that one ethnicity is in Game of Thrones and how you can learn it. You can learn High Valyrian and one other Game of Thrones language on Duolingo. And it's exciting and fun and super nerdy, but I also just want to know how developed are these languages? Do you know what I mean? How complicated are they? And do they, if there are any linguists that listen or anybody that has any interest in linguistics, I'm always curious how, I don't know, formalized these languages are, you know?
I feel like there's so much. Yeah, I agree. I mean,
I feel like a lot goes into a language. And so I feel like just because you can write a fantasy series doesn't mean you can necessarily invent a language. And I'm not trying to crap on the authors that
you can
invent languages, but
invent a language that doesn't have a lot of different tenses and stuff, you know?
True.
Very simple
So
language.
I'm just curious about that. If anybody has an answer, let me know.
Okay. The November 16th, Eric Agard puzzle in New Yorker. 31 across, pair at the beginning of some romance novels. Mortal enemies.
I had this one too. I am a big enemies to lovers girly. That's a fact.
36 across, gotta say ... Answer is not for nothing. 2 down, flawed yet beloved figure. Problematic fave, which happens to be 15 letters. And then the 15 down, canvas for gibbets shoe charms. Croc. I love my gibbets.
Of course.
That was it. But I had to shout out Croc.
You had to. I also had from that puzzle 14 across, literally, quote, by the head, end quote. And the answer is per capita. I just liked that. I liked 15 across, in quotes, almost, end quote, close, but no cigar. And then 47 across. This is for us. Feature of some ornamental dice. And the answer is fuzz. Why don't we have fuzzy dice in our Subarus yet?
Trust me, I know. But it's okay. To be honest, I don't, they say you're not supposed to make your car look like a woman owns it.
It's
Because
true.
then you can get targeted. And that's being a woman, people. We can't even have fun
And
with a little fuzzy dice. Although I guess men have fuzzy dice, but...
Yeah. Technically, Matt drives our car more, but still.
Yeah. You never know.
Still.
My car...
What you got to do is put, like, I'm a man bumper sticker on the back.
That's basically what my car is, thanks to my, specialty license plate, which I'm not going to say what it is.
Don't you dare.
On here, but...
that's all I have for hits and shits this
I just
week.
have one more. The November 15th New Yorker by Brooke Cusick. 14 across, worker getting high on the job, ? Aviator. 61 across, means of getting into Mensa. IQ test. And then this, I'm sad that you didn't do this puzzle because I think you would have enjoyed these. 7 across, close-up video of a K-pop band member, e.g. fan cam. And then the same puzzle, 13 down, group with 2020 hit Dynamite, BTS.
Oh my God.
So, sorry about that.
Just to say, the K-pop industry, if you're looking for an industry that really services the fans, K-pop is for you. You have so much effing content every goddamn day. I'm talking fan cams is just a drop of water in the type of content that you can get.
Drop in the ocean. Okay. Sorry.
You have anything else?
No, that's it.
So I think it's time to flip the coin. All right, I'm flipping the coin now. It's tails. Oh my God.
Oh my gosh. All right, I have a confession to make. I have been like freaking out now because I'm realizing I don't have where my clue came from. Where my topic came from. It was something like, it was like Mnemosyne is the goddess, the Greek goddess of this, I believe, in the answer.
Okay, I think I know which one you're talking about.
Okay.
I think it's from a New Yorker.
I think it is from a New Yorker too, but I can't find it.
It's fine.
It existed though. Okay.
Yeah.
So do you know what Mnemosyne is the goddess of?
I think I don't.
She doesn't remember, which is ironic because she is the goddess of memory.
Memory.
Yes, she inspired the famous Cats number. No. Mnemosyne,
as written by T.S. Eliot, sorry.
is the Greek goddess of memory. Actually, I do mention T.S. Eliot in this topic, so it does all kind of come together, maybe.
You can't make this shit up, folks. It's all connected.
So an easy way to remember that is, her name is Mnemosyne, but it's spelled like M-N-E-M, similar to mnemonic device, which is an exercise to assist memory. So there you have it.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
She is one of the Titans. So for those of you who aren't nerds, those were like the gods that came before Zeus and like all the other Olympic gods. So Earth goddess Gaia and sky god Uranus had 12 children, Mnemosyne being one of them. She was the goddess of memory, but also the goddess of time. So yes, she represented the rote memorization needed to preserve the stories of history. So that's why she was also like in charge of time. She had memory.
Okay.
So she kind of preserved all the like history and saga of myths before the introduction of writing. And praying to Mnemosyne would grant you memories of your past life.
Oh, I wish that this is the kind of shit that I wish that like we had.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Sometimes I wish I lived in these times.
Nothing's stopping you from believing in this.
My brain is.
Honestly, like, religion feels way more fun in ancient Greek. Although, not real. I don't know. Because then I feel like people are dying a lot.
In theory,
like,
it's more fun. But, like, that practical, like, aspect of, like, going back in time and, like, being there. Yeah. Like, listen, I played the Assassin's Creed Odyssey. It is not fun back then.
Right?
Okay?
She basically knows exactly what it's like. As a keeper of the pool of memory in the underworld, Mnemosyne would allow some who crossed the ability to get all the memories of their past lives before they were reincarnated, but that rarely happened. She's also Cronus' sister, therefore she's Zeus's aunt, and spoiler alert, she sleeps with Zeus and has kids with him. So, the story goes,
Yum.
Zeus, having recently slept with Demeter and, giving birth to, or conceiving Persephone, then fell for Demeter's sister, Mnemosyne. In the hills...
Auntie Mnemosyne.
Yes, in the hills of Eleuther near Mount Olympus, Zeus spent 9 consecutive nights sleeping with Mnemosyne. He was busy. And as a result, from those 9 nights, Mnemosyne became pregnant with 9 fetuses, which she carried all at the same time, which I don't think that's how it worked, but they're gods, so who knows?
Oh,
Also,
I mean, she must have been good.
Her gestation was 1 year. So 1 year after sleeping with Zeus, she gave birth to all 9 of her daughters, and they became the Muses.
Yes. Oh, cute.
So let's talk about the 9 Muses. Some have like more information than others.
Let's talk about it.
Remember their names. Write these down for like future
Writing.
pet names, kid names. Some of them are better than others. Okay, Calliope. She is the muse of epic poetry, which is poetry about stories, not like amazing poetry. Although I'm sure they're also amazing. But she is like the chief of all muses, so she's probably one of the most well-known ones.
Okay.
And there's Cleo,
Calliope,
who is the muse of history and the giver of sweetness. A quote about her: "All the ages are in her keeping, and all the storied annals of the past." She represents the past. Name. I know it is cute, but it's Clio.
Yes, I do know
she
that.
represents the past and is one of the most common muses to be represented in art. Then there's Euterpe. The name is not as nice. She is the muse of music and lyric poetry. Thalia is the muse of comedy and pastoral poetry.
Folly.
Yes.
A little bit of folly.
Yep, Thalia. TH.
Oh, Thalia.
Yeah.
Thalia. Sorry. I was thinking folly.
Thalia should have been. Melpomene is the goddess muse of tragedy. Kind of a downer.
Yeah, that is a tragic name.
Terpsichore, or Terpsichore, is the muse of dance and choruses.
Right.
Very little is known about her. Plato mentions her and imagines that she is giving love to dancing grasshoppers after they die. Okay. But she is one of the most referenced muses in modern day. So her name appears in the work of George Orwell and T.S. Eliot.
None other.
And she is also played by Rita Hayworth in Down to Earth and Olivia Newton-John in Xanadu. Like, the main character in Xanadu is based off Terpsichore. And yes, Chelsea did an episode on Xanadu.
Yeah, that name rolls off the tongue. It really does. Of course.
Erato is the muse of erotic poetry. Polymnia is the muse of sacred poetry and sacred hymns. And then Urania is the goddess of astronomy. Her songs guide heroes on their journeys. Whatever.
They guide
Why is it important that the muses are Mnemosyne's daughters? Well, that makes them the same generation as Zeus and all the other Olympians. Though they weren't Olympian goddesses themselves, they're still considered to be very important by worshippers. And I feel like we all, even us lay people who barely know anything about Greek mythology, know about the muses.
We've heard of the muses.
I didn't realize there was 9 of them, but
are the muses the ones at the front of the Hercules?
Yes, but I don't think
we are the muses.
But I don't think there's all 9 of them, or I don't think there's 9.
Maybe. Well, somebody fact check.
They are muses, though.
And then,
okay. So while Mnemosyne was rarely worshipped by herself, she was part of the cult of Asclepius. So, sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong. Asclepius, which doesn't seem right, was a god of medicine, and many people would make pilgrimages to his healing temples. So there they would make offerings to the god, and then they would sleep in the holiest part of the temple, in the sanctuary, and then in the morning they would wake up and they would tell some priest all the dreams that they had, and then the priest would interpret their dreams and prescribe them medication or whatever for healing treatment. We talked about the Hippocratic Oath in the Mensa episode, but it originally started with, "I swear by Apollo the physician and by Asclepius." So he's there. But why did Mnemosyne?
All of our topics really are so connected in such a weird way.
Wild. If you don't, we talked about Hippocrates in the Mensa episode when I was talking about IQ tests, if you're wondering.
Yes.
But why did Mnemosyne get involved in these rituals? Well, since she was the goddess of memory, people would pray to her as part of the ritual so that they would be able to remember their dreams when they woke up, so they could tell it to the priest. She never had festivals or temples dedicated just to her. She was often referenced when worshiping other gods, which was common for the Titan generation. She's depicted as being beautiful, and in more modern work, like the 1800s modern, she is depicted as carrying a lamp of memory. In Rossetti's 1875 work, she carries a lamp inscribed with the words, "Thou fillst from the winged chalice of the soul, thy lamp, O memory, fire winged to its goal."
Lamp, O memory.
That's
now for purchase at your local Walmart.
Yes. I actually saw some at Home Goods the other day.
Oh, we got to grab them.
But let's talk about memory. Okay?
Memory.
Because that's all there is about Mnemosyne.
Okay.
I read an article on Reader's Digest called Here's How Your Memory Really Works by Guy P. Harrison. Guy says that memory is not like being able to play back the tapes from a video camera in your head. Instead, he says, quote, I prefer to describe it as something like an old man sitting by a campfire somewhere deep in your brain. He means well and wants to help, but he doesn't show you your past like some wizard with a time portal. The best he can do is tell you stories, and like all good storytellers, he edits for impact, efficiency, functionality, and clarity. He tells you what he assumes you need to know. Sometimes he just gets confused or sloppy and leaves out something important. He could even include inaccurate information by accident. Maybe that special memory of your first kiss in middle school has been infiltrated with portions of a college experience or a scene from a movie you saw many years ago. So your memories are basically not very accurate at all. Your brain kind of like molds them to fit a certain narrative. They're not arranged in any kind of chronological order. They're also like weirdly connected to each other. Sometimes you can remember really insignificant things, but you forget important stuff, and things are tucked away. That's why we kind of talked about this in the incense episode. Like the smell can bring a memory that like you didn't even know you remembered. It seems so insignificant at the time, but like it's in there in your brain, and the smell awakens it.
We've talked a little bit about like repressed memories in the Oedipus episode as well. We talked about Freud. That's a whole other
Yes,
topic.
I talk about that a tiny bit, but the most important thing to remember is that human memory is not reliable. A quote from that article, you may believe you can replay something from the past, but you can't. You may see the past crystal clear in your mind, but that's not personal history you are watching. It's a docudrama at best. Numerous studies have shown that eyewitnesses will swear up and down that they saw something that or like they saw, if multiple people watch the same thing, they will all have a different account of what they saw, like including putting the person in like different clothing, like the chain of events was entirely different. That's why eyewitness info is so unreliable in court. And there's like, you can really go down a rabbit hole about all this. But one research shows that faulty eyewitness testimony has been implicated in at least 75% of DNA exoneration cases. More than any other cause. So like one of the reasons for people getting, wrongly convicted, especially before they had advanced like DNA testing, was because of false eyewitness accounts. And there've been
if you just watch 12 Angry Men. That's all you need to know to understand.
Yeah, they are like trying to do new things now where like they say if you're trying to pick someone out of a lineup, they used to do it like they put a bunch of people who looked kind of similar and you had to pick the right person. Now they're saying your memory actually works better if you put a bunch of people who look different.
Dissimilar?
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's there's like they do all this research. Like they, there's one research study where they had a bunch of like young people and they asked their families for like real stories that happened to them. And then the researchers would like either Photoshop pictures or tell them these stories. They would do like 3 real stories and 1 fake story that the researchers gave them. And people would like really think that happened to them. If they saw like a picture or they told a story, like people like, and crazy stuff too, like you spilled like juice on a bride at a wedding, or it's like all these crazy stories that they can really make you believe that you experienced that and you truly believe that you do. That's why there's like issues with false confessions and stuff too. If someone has you enough, they can really like make you have false memories. Sure. And there was like a huge thing kind of like what you're talking about with Freud back in the day. Psychology was really into like suppressed memories, and all of a sudden people were like having all these memories of these horrible things happening to them in their childhood. And some research shows like it's possible that those never happened, but they were kind of like implanted in their brain. And so then they really believe that they happened. Not that you definitely can have like suppressed memories, but
you absolutely can. But you can also, there are types of quote unquote therapy that can actually like be more harmful than helpful. And this is one of those things where like, the quote unquote therapist might think that you've repressed memories. And so they start planting things and it's no bueno.
But speaking about like therapy and memories, there are traumatic memories. So brain imaging confirms that when an experience is traumatic or overwhelms a person, the memory of that experience is stored in a way that connects it more closely with the automatic nervous system. So these memories can be triggered by seemingly unrelated stimuli, and then they spark a nervous system reaction. Like, you can have a panic attack just based on like how that specific traumatic memory is stored in your brain, and you don't know like what's going to trigger it.
Right. Especially if you're not in therapy, like, and you're not aware like what the triggers are. Like, you can be out in public and somebody, I don't know, you hear a car horn or something, and like this is why with PTSD too, like if you out in public and you can hear like a firework, and then that can be like a stimuli, a trigger to that suppressed memory.
Yes, and
anyway,
there are obviously therapists that can help you with this. Not me, so I'm not going to give you any advice, but
no. The advice is therapy.
Just thought that was interesting. Like brain imaging shows that memory is like stored differently than other memories.
Yeah, and also I think with traumatic memories as well, like depending on the age you are, at which point the traumatic memory happens, your brain can decide whether or not to essentially repress the memory or keep it like in like, I don't know the scientific terms, but in like your present memory, like something you could recall, depending on your age, because your brain is so advanced. Even when you're young, it knows what it needs to do to protect you versus serve you. Yeah. And it's like amazing.
Thanks, brain.
Brains are crazy.
Okay, I'm going to end talking about memory loss, which is something that I'm sure a lot of people are worried about. Research shows like after cancer, memory loss is like the, second highest thing that people are worried about. And in the bilingual episode, we talked about how knowing multiple languages can help like stave off, dementia, just because you're constantly creating like new synapses and connections in the brain by knowing 2 languages. Very interesting. I don't have the bilingual episode off the top of my head, but
it's an early one, I think.
If you're interested, you can message us and I'll find it for you. But I read an article on hopkinsmedicine.com called Memory, Myth versus Truth. So they talked about myths and truths of memory. So the first myth is that forgetfulness equals dementia or Alzheimer's. So it's normal to have memory slip-ups as you get older. And this example kind of helped me. So they're saying like forgetting where you put your car keys is normal. Like that type of memory loss is normal. Forgetting what car keys are used for, that's like more of a sign of something more serious.
Oh, okay.
So like it does kind of feel like, okay, yeah, sometimes I am forgetful, but it's like when you start forgetting stuff like that, then that's, obviously go talk to your doctor.
Yeah.
Okay. This is going to be sad for all of our listeners. Myth. Doing puzzles can improve your overall memory. According to this article, the benefits are limited. So it is a form of memory training, but it only strengthens the type of memory it uses. So if you do a lot of they specifically said if you do crossword puzzles, you'll get better at doing crossword puzzles. If you read mystery stories, you'll get better at solving mysteries. But these won't necessarily help you remember directions or people's names better, and benefits only seem to last as long as you keep doing the puzzles. Whenever you stop, whatever benefit you had could be lost.
I guess it's time to stop doing crosswords.
Yeah. I don't know, though. I feel like it's because my grandpa, he was like in his 90s, and his memory was like, or he was always like very, very with it. And he would always be doing little things. Like he played chess against himself. He would always be like reading articles. He, just like to keep his mind busy. And I think that it kept him sharp. Okay, so what are we supposed to do? And everyone's going to hate this. Research has shown that physical activity may lower your risk of dementia. But it's like even something like walking, cycling may keep your mind sharper. Why is this? They're not entirely sure, but it may work by promoting blood flow to the brain. But it also helps you because it requires you to like think and learn new, sometimes complex movements. Obviously not with walking, but if you're doing like Pilates or anything where you have to like learn something new. It is true though. There is like dementia caused by bad circulation.
Cool. I should get working out again.
Obviously it's more like when you're older, but that is
you got to. Well, we're 30. We have to start paying attention to our health.
We have to start.
And that's what my dad would say to me.
I would like to walk more, but anyways, that is definitely a thing.
Maybe you and I could meet halfway and say, hey, then turn around.
Do like a high five. And then research has found that a Mediterranean style diet may lower your risk of Alzheimer's disease.
I've heard that too.
Yeah, so,
and I think that's like Greek and Italian.
So it focuses on fruits, vegetables, fish, grains, beans, nuts, and olive oil, which sounds good to me.
Oil,
minimizes red meat and sugary sweets. Okay. now we're going too far. A little sugar never hurt anyone. There's also hidden factors related to lifestyle that may harm memory, like depression. Okay.
That's hilarious.
Heavy drinking. Okay.
Okay. I'm good there.
And isolation. But I mean,
we're not so isolated.
No, they're saying like, try and be social. This is like obviously especially more for older people, because sometimes it can be very hard for older people to be social and be out there. That's why it's good for them to join like, groups for seniors.
This is why you need to like live near your BFFs for the rest of your life. Yeah. That's like
we're moving into like some old, as soon as we're like 80, it's like moving into assisted living facility next to each other.
Are you kidding? Seriously, like there's like seriously, that's the hope. Yeah. Honestly, could you imagine? We're sitting in the community center doing puzzles all goddamn day, listening back to our old podcast episodes, and we're like,
we used to have a podcast, and the nurses are like, okay,
shut up, take your medicine.
But if you don't want to do any of this, you can also pray to Nemesine and hope for the best. All right, that's it. That's memory.
All right, amazing. Okay, my topic comes from the Friday, November 11th New Yorker by Ross Trudeau. 57 across. Garten, who, per Taylor Swift, quote, made cooking feel like self-care.
Ina.
And the answer is Ina. So I'm talking about Ina Garten today. Yes, it's another food episode, back to back, but we're talking more about a personality rather than her actual cooking. If you don't know who Ina Garten is, you might know her by her stage name, the Barefoot Contessa. She is an American author and host of the Food Network show Barefoot Contessa. So the Barefoot Contessa was one of my favorite shows as a kid, which probably explains a lot. Yes. I'm like about to, like, Grace, did you ever watch cooking shows when you were a kid?
Never.
Okay, I was a huge Food Network fan and the Cooking Channel fan. I watched so much like cooking shows like Alton Brown, Ina Garten, like all this stuff. So I was like, you know what? Screw it. I'm going to do Ina today, the Barefoot Contessa, as my topic. Let me see. I'm going back to the top of my notes here because I scrolled a little bit. Okay, so Ina was born Ina Rosenberg on February 2nd, 1948. This is a big reveal, folks. Actually, I already knew.
2nd. I really feel like so many people are born on February. Like in my personal life, I know like 5.
There's a lot of people born on February 2nd, and like there's quite a few celebrities like Ina, Shakira, the big two, clearly the most important two. And if listeners, if you're just like tuning in and you have no idea why February 2nd is important, like what do I have to do to explain to you that it's my birthday? It is Groundhog's Day. Like get with the program. Anyway, what else do you need from me? Anyway, so she was born Ina Rosenberg on February 2nd, 1948 in Brooklyn, but she was raised in Stamford, Connecticut. Stamford is where her father, who was a surgeon, had his practice. I thought this was an interesting anecdote. Her mother always encouraged her to stay out of the kitchen and to focus on her schoolwork instead. She attended Syracuse University, but postponed her studies to marry her husband, Jeffrey Garten, on December 22nd, 1968. And this is just like a fun fact that kind of got glossed over in most of the stuff that I was reading about Ina. She met Jeffrey for the first time when she was 15 years old, visiting her brother at Dartmouth. And so I wonder, that was like the most I could find.
And then
I couldn't find like when they started dating or anything.
She dropped out of college to marry him?
Marry him.
They're
I know.
Together
that's
still.
All the information that I have. They're still together. They're happily married. Whatever that means.
Prove it.
Anyway, so they get married and they relocate to Fort Bragg, North Carolina. And it was while living in North Carolina that Garten began to dabble in cooking and entertaining to occupy her time while her husband served his 4-year military tour during the Vietnam War.
Fort Bragg, he's probably in the military. That's probably why they got married.
Yeah, so they got married. He went over to Vietnam and she was like doing military wife stuff and like entertaining and cooking in Fort Bragg. After her husband finished his military service, they went to France for a 4-month camping trip. And she visited Paris for the first time, where she experienced open-air markets, produce stands, and fresh cooking ingredients, and discovered her love of French cuisine. So that's kind of like where her love of cooking started off, because remember, her mom wouldn't even let her in the kitchen when she was a kid. So after their trip to France, the couple moved to Washington, D.C., where Jeffrey worked in the State Department and Garton worked in the White House. Fun fact. I think a lot of people didn't know this about her. She was initially a low-level government aide, but she took business courses at George Washington University and eventually earned her MBA, which allowed her to move up the political ladder to the Office of Management and Budget, where she was assigned the role of budget analysis accountant much.
Wow, she's just like me.
She's just like you.
I don't have an MBA.
And which entailed writing nuclear energy budget and policy papers on centrifuge plant for President Ford and President Carter. So that's what she was doing.
Oh my gosh. Wow, what a life.
What a life. Just to say, like, stories like this might not be like what you want your life to be, but she dropped out of college, got married, but then she went back to school, got her MBA, and then she started working in the White House. Like, you can do anything at any point in your life, okay? So don't give up.
It's also like, then she made a complete different career change. It's like anything can happen at any time.
She really, exactly. That's one of the reasons why I love her story so much. It's super random, which means like you can do a career pivot at any point as long as you have the gall, the gumption, and sometimes you have to have the personality. Anyway, so she continued cultivating her culinary abilities by studying the volumes of Julia Child. So if you don't know, Julia Child is one of the first ever like American TV chefs. She's famous for her like very, hello, I'm Julia Child voice, okay? And her cookbook is called Mastering the Art of French Cooking, so that's what Ina used to study. And she mostly used cooking as a way to cope with the strain and pressure of working in the White House. She was constantly arranging dinner parties and soirees at her home on the weekends. And she also apparently somehow found the time to flip homes in the neighborhood surrounding Washington, D.C.
Okay.
Yeah, how do you do that? How do you do all of this? Pausing here to mention that Ina was not formally trained as a chef, contrary to what you might believe. She, like, didn't go to school for it. All she knows about cooking, she learned through cookbooks or through, like, doing recipes on the weekends and her friends basically giving her, like, feedback and stuff like that. And I thought this was funny. Apparently, she can only cook and bake in near silence, something she learned because she cooked Julia Child's recipe alone in her own kitchen. So if people like her talking when she's cooking, she's like, shut up, shut up, shut up, shut up. Let's see. Her professional culinary career didn't start until she purchased the gourmet food store in the Hamptons called Barefoot Contessa in 1978. So, yes, she purchased a store in the Hamptons with the money that she got from flipping houses. That's what this article said.
Something is going on. She was already rich.
She was already rich. Daddy was a surgeon in Stamford, Connecticut. Right. What are you doing in the Hamptons? Yeah. You know what I mean? Okay.
It's like
whatever. Like, you can be rich. I'm not trying to say you can't be rich.
Sometimes that like makes things make more sense. It's like, how could this person do it? It's like, oh, they already had money. Okay. Got it.
Right. Got it. Okay. So she saw the store listed in the New York Times, and being dissatisfied with her career and only learning to love food more and more, she knew she had to have it. So the Gartons decided they never wanted children. And Ina instead spent 18 years running the store, the Barefoot Contessa. And she like got a lot of knowledge about cooking and food, gourmet food specifically, from the previous owner of the store. Her name was Diana Strata, and Ina says she owes everything to Diana. Quote, I think she feels that I took her child and raised it and gave it an international reputation. I'm forever grateful that she started it. End quote. And the name of the store comes from the 1945 Humphrey Bogart, Ava Gardner film of the same name. The Barefoot Contessa is the name of the film, and it's about the life and loves of a fictional Spanish sex symbol, Maria Varga, which is interesting. Let's see. Apparently, Ina didn't like the name at first, but eventually embraced it for its embodiment of all things elegant and earthy. Garton eventually expanded the store over 7 times its original size, from the original 400 square feet to more than 3,000 square feet. The store specialized in delicacies such as lobster Cobb salad, caviar, imported cheeses, and locally grown produce. And she had celebrity clientele such as Steven Spielberg and Lauren Bacall, which I thought was fun, right? I mean, anybody that's going to the Hamptons probably shopped at the Barefoot Contessa, okay? She eventually sold the store in 1996 to 2 of her employees, and then in 2004, the store permanently closed, so it's no longer a thing. So how did she jump from gourmet food store owner to Food Network? Well, the simple answer is that she started writing cookbooks. After selling the store, she turned to publishing and published her first cookbook in 1999, The Barefoot Contessa Cookbook. It was a huge hit, which her publisher was not anticipating. It immediately sold over 100,000 copies, and they had to do like many reprints after that. And she has since published 13 cookbooks. Notables are Cooking for Jeffrey, a Barefoot Contessa cookbook. So she has a cookbook dedicated specifically to her husband's favorite recipes, which I think is an incredible love note. And then, of course, it's a marketing move because people online love Jeffrey, but I'm going to get to that. And then another cookbook is, let's see, Barefoot Contessa, How Easy Is That? Which is one of her catchphrases. How easy is that? And then Make It Ahead, a Barefoot Contessa cookbook. Those are just 3 of some of her cookbooks. And aside from publishing cookbooks, she also wrote magazine columns and even appeared multiple times on the Martha Stewart show. So she was kind of becoming known in the food world. And eventually, because of her success as an author, the Food Network took notice. And apparently they offered her a show multiple times, and she declined multiple times due in part to her fear of being in front of the camera. I can totally relate to that. Eventually they wore her down, and they struck a deal in 2001. And the production company that shot The Barefoot Contessa, her show, also shot the show Nigella Bites, which if you're into food shows, you know what Nigella Bites is. You know Nigella Lawson. It's essentially like Nigella Bites is the British version of The Barefoot Contessa. If you've seen The Barefoot Contessa, it's like, I'm in the Hamptons with my gorgeous garden and we're going to cook this beautiful dinner and it's going to be all elegant and elevated and very, very intimate and like accessible. And that, but British, is Nigella Bites. And so it was like for me, I was reading this, I was like, oh, that's a perfect match. Of course they would have this company do Ina's show. They're basically the same thing. Anyway, she acquiesced and agreed to a season of 13 shows, and the show premiered in 2002 and got lots of positive reception. Her show is such a vibe. Like, have you seen The Barefoot Contessa, even if you're not a fan?
I mean, I've seen like some
memes?
Yeah, memes of it basically, but no, I've never watched it.
So the show is, Ina has 3 properties. One is in the Hamptons, the cottage in which she films the show. She has a property in Paris, and I forget where her third, it's in New York. She has a New York City apartment. She films the show in her Hamptons home. And it has like that, Hamptons vibe. There was like that trend on TikTok recently about being like a coastal grandmother.
Yes, that's the vibe.
It has like a coastal grandmother vibe. She always wears like looser fitting button up blue shirts. She has like a perfect bob and like linen pants, and it's beautiful summer. The flowers are blooming. All of her rich friends will stop by and be like, Ina, I plucked these beautiful flowers from my garden for you. And she's like, I'm going to make a centerpiece with this. And then she like cooks this incredibly like intricate meal, but the way she talks to you and like encourages you, it feels incredibly accessible if you have access to these ingredients. So I'm going to read a couple quotes about the vibe of her show. In the Washington Post, quote, "The TV host and prolific cookbook author's brand is a unique meld of aspirational and accessible, contributing to a diverse fan base, rich women in fur coats who appreciate her show, truck drivers who profess a love of her books as they drive by, and more recently, the 1.6 million people who follow her on Instagram." She has a huge Instagram following. And then in Elle, there's an article titled, Ina Garten is everybody's fantasy best friend. This is what they wrote. "People gravitate to her because she's good at her job, but they also come to her because she's an oasis of easy cheer and familiarity in an era increasingly short on both. When the apocalypse arrives, and some feel as if it already has, I'll take shelter at Ina Garten's estate." And her show features, like I said, her celebrity friends. They bring her like, I just milked my goat and made goat whatever, and here I brought it over for you. And she's like, I'm going to use this goat milk for my remoulade or whatever it is that she's making. I don't even know if you can use goat milk to make remoulade, but that's like her whole vibe. She always has a friend stop by, and then Jeffrey pops in, and Jeffrey has like a cult following as well. Like he like pops in and he's like, hello, love, gives her a kiss, and she's like, I made Jeffrey's favorite turkey today, and whatever. It just has that vibe. Barefoot Contessa apparently has approximately 1 million viewers turned in per episode and has some of the highest ratings on Food Network ever. I'm going to talk about some interesting facts about Ina. She is Jewish by birth and heritage, as is her husband, but she rarely refers to her religion and ethnicity, though they are showcased through her inclusion of classic Jewish cooking in her television show. So she does like do Jewish food on her show, but she doesn't really talk about being Jewish. But I just wanted to throw out there that she is Jewish.
Ina Garten doesn't sound like a Jewish name, but
Garten doesn't sound like a Jewish name. Rosenberg is her maiden name, and it does, but apparently her husband is also Jewish.
Well, I wonder if she has a recipe on sufganiyot, which is like these fried donuts that they make for Hanukkah that I tried to make last year and completely bungled. But
you should look it up.
I'll look into it.
Yeah, definitely. She has she has like Jewish recipes in her cookbooks as well, so I'm sure you can find something online. So I don't know if I think I mentioned it a couple minutes ago, but people are obsessed with her husband, like obsessed with him because she has like such a vibe to her. And then her husband like pops in and out and then he got a cookbook published for him. And she's always like, Jeffrey this and Jeffrey that, Jeffrey. It's like part of her persona, it's part of the show. And apparently Ina is vaguely aware of people's fascination with her marriage. Essentially because he is a traveling Yale professor, so they have essentially a long-distance relationship a lot of the year.
Yeah, that's why she likes him so much.
Which is why she likes him so much. Which is so sad. I mean, I literally can't be away from Matt for a night or I get depressed. But so let's see. He makes random dinner time appearances in her show, and so he has like this like kind of like mythical element to him. Like, is Jeffrey going to be in today's episode? And she brings up in this Washington Post article that I read that there is a Jeffrey skit in 30 Rock in which Matt Damon is playing Tina Fey's pilot boyfriend. He bursts into tears after Fey says that they can make their long-distance relationship work, like Ina and Jeffrey. And Damon's character says, I can't live like this anymore, he sobs. I'm not like Jeffrey. I'm not as strong as that guy. Which is hilarious to me. And yeah, so Ina has a cult following. There's a guy named Trent Pfeiffer. He's 33, or at the time this article was written, he was 33. He documents his attempts to make each of Garten's recipes on his blog called Store Bought is Fine, which is another one of her little catchphrases. She always goes, how easy is that? When it's in fact not very easy. And then she's like, I'm going to homemade like vodka, whatever ridiculous thing she's going to home make. And she's like, but if you don't have homemade vodka, store bought is fine.
It's like, yeah, I don't even know how to start doing that.
Which I think is hilarious because one of my favorite memes ever is Ina in a witch hat. And she's like, if you can't summon the flames of hell directly, store bought is fine. And I share that every Halloween. Anyway, so Trent runs a blog called Store Bought is Fine, and he made a vow to get better at cooking after he made a bad cauliflower Alfredo off of a Pinterest recipe. And he decided, fuck this, I'm going to learn how to cook. And he has been cooking Ina's recipe since 2015. And he now has a following of his own with over 51,000 followers on Instagram. He says, quote, her recipes tend to be foolproof. I know that if it's a simple recipe, it's going to be amazing. If it's a complicated recipe and I'm in the kitchen for most of the day, it's going to be worth the effort. Another fun fact, her store, Barefoot Contessa, made a movie appearance in 2003. Director Nancy Meyers chose the store as one of the sets for Something's Gotta Give, starring Jack Nicholson and Diane Keaton. And last but not least, Garten can find value in almost any ingredient, but is there something that she dislikes? Quote, cilantro, period. It's one thing. I just can't eat it. So she must have that gene of like...
soap, cilantro soap gene.
Yes. I'm going to read one last quote from the Elle article I mentioned earlier, just to kind of wrap things up about Ina. Quote, Garten's longevity is somewhat counterintuitive. She's become such a cultural fixture chiefly because she's able to resist the tides of trends, rather than being cowed by them. A lifestyle brand she is not. She shouldn't be compared to Gwyneth Paltrow or Martha Stewart, which I find really interesting. She has a vibe of like that coastal grandmother vibe, but she refuses to brand herself as such, which I think is great and why people like her so much. Garten is constantly turning down offers to license her name for food items, fertilizers, and clothing lines. She has a few friends in the restaurant business, but is largely disconnected from the insidery world of Manhattan chefs. She never met Anthony Bourdain, who once described Garten as, quote, one of the few people on the Food Network who can actually cook, end quote. What a, like, compliment, first of all.
Wait, are there people on the Food Network who can't cook?
They're just, like, celebrity chef, like, like, don't get me started on Food Network chefs, but they're crappy. Like Bobby Flay's a piece of shit kind of thing. Okay. Anyway, so back to the quote. She deliberates every professional opportunity rigorously, and right now she is mulling the possibility of a collaboration with Anthony Porowski, the pretty boy foodie on Netflix Queer Eye reboot. Quote, do you like him? Do you know him? She asks the room when his name is mentioned. I inquire if she's followed the rise of the Instant Pot, and she tells me that she bought one, but I still haven't used it, she confesses. End quote. And that's Ina.
There she is.
I love Ina so much.
It almost makes me want to watch a cooking show.
Apparently, her overnight mac and cheese recipe, which she put out in quarantine, went viral. And you just got to say Ina Garten mac and cheese, but overnight mac and cheese, I'm
like
there.
Overnight oats.
Yeah, I have no idea, but it sounds amazing, and it's Ina, so I trust her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you make it, I'll have some. Take a Lactaid before and call it a day.
Exactly. Probably I'll have to take a Lactaid.
Well, thanks for sharing.
If you have a favorite Ina recipe, write to us. Or if you like Ina, or if you have a favorite Food Network chef, let me know, because...
Are you someone who, like, loves food? I feel like a lot of people like Food Network and like watching people cook. And then there's people like me who, to me, cooking is, like, totally utilitarian. I like food. So I like to learn I like to cook things that taste good, but I get absolutely no enjoyment from cooking. I hate to say it.
I love cooking, and I love watching food shows. I've watched Food Network. I don't watch Food Network anymore. I think Food Network has completely gone to shit, and it's now just for, like, shock value. And, you know, if you've ever watched Chopped, just, it's stupid. Like, these shows are stupid. But a show like The Barefoot Contessa, which is just like an intimate cooking show, and like it's a credible personality. I love that stuff. I love like Great British Bake Off. I love, what's that show? Chef's Table is one of my favorite documentary series ever. If you like chefs, if you like cooking, watch Chef's Table. Yes, I watch those shows. They're so relaxing. They're so relaxing to me.
There's two types of people in the world. Maybe that'll be our poll for next week after I do the ice batching today. But if you want to vote in our poll and let us know, or just talk to us, you can find us on Twitter at The Good Eve Girls.
Or Instagram at The Good Evening Girls.
Or TikTok at The Good Eve Girls.
Come on down, and we're always around to chit-chat. Send us your thoughts on, I don't know, food, I guess, or... Memory.
You can remember. Yeah. Well, until then, everyone have a nice break coming up as we don't record.
We're not recording next week. Just a gentle reminder.
So, brace yourselves.
Then, please, brace yourself firstly. Secondly, keep curious, and we'll catch you next time.
We will. Bye-bye.
Bye.